stay with me as we expand our knowledge with videos from all over the internet that's going to make you question reality. Let's just that.
In the early Christian Bible, there is a passage. How many have heard, "Ask and ye shall receive"? Have you heard that before?
Yes.
I know people that ask and ask and ask and nothing happens. Because the asking is not done with the voice. The asking is not done, "Please, please, bring this to my world." That's not asking. To ask, we must speak to the field, to the divine matrix, in the language that the field recognizes. And a language that's meaningful. The field doesn't recognize our voice, it recognizes the power of our heart. Look at what the Lost Gospel of Thomas says. It says, when you make the two, thought and emotion, one, you will say to the mountain, "Mountain, move away," and the mountain will move away. Saying that when you can marry your thought and your emotion into one single potent force, that is when you have the power to speak. So when you create the feeling in your heart as if your prayer is already answered, that creates the electrical and the magnetic waves that bring that answer to you.
Would you believe me if I told you that this is our known world and this is all of the land beyond Antarctica? And would you believe me if I told you that this is actually a map of the moon? And the moon is some sort of reflection being reflected off of our firmament. And it somehow shows the entire known world and then some. So the moon is literally a map of our known world, and it proves that there is more land beyond Antarctica. Vibes of Cosmos on YouTube accurately shows this, because he literally shows you all of the known world being mapped onto the moon and then land beyond Antarctica. He accurately maps cities, rivers, and even flight routes and the hours of the day on the moon. How does he do it? I'm not so sure, but it makes a lot of sense to me. So, have you heard of the black hole sun? Well, apparently there's a black hole sun in the center of the North Pole from which all light and life projects out of. So the light coming from the sun and the light coming from the moon is actually a projection being reflected off of our crystalline firmament and then concentrating in the ionosphere. And did you know that this is even depicted on the Prague astronomical clock? They have a clock in Prague that shows you the known world and more. It's an astrological clock. And what about the dark side of the moon? Maybe they're telling us something right in front of our faces, but this video was for entertainment purposes only.
So listen to this. This kid gets kidnapped and they don't find him for 73 years. This is wild. So one day, two brothers are playing in a local park, and they're minding their own business, having a good time. Then, out of nowhere, a woman wearing a green bandana approaches them, and she offers the younger brother some candy. And younger brother's like, "Sure, I want some candy. Who doesn't love candy?" And the woman is like, "Well, come with me and I'll take you to the store to get some." And so the younger brother leaves with her to go to the store and get some candy. And that is the last time anyone ever saw him. Now the boy, his name's Luis, and he's 6, and the other boy with him in the park is his older brother, Roger. Roger's 10. And when the woman starts to leave with Luis, Roger's like, "Well, I want to go too. I want some candy." And he starts to follow them. And so he walks along, following them, but then, after a while, he starts thinking, where are we going? Something about this ain't right. Now, keep in mind, this is happening in 1951, so this is way before stranger danger, way before there were nationwide campaigns notifying kids not to get into cars with adults they don't know. And so anyway, Roger feels like something isn't right, and he decides, this is weird, I'm telling my mom, and so he stops following them and he runs home. Minutes later, he's home and he tells his mom. Now, his mom is this woman, who we'll just call Mom. And he tells her what happened, that his little brother just left with some woman in a green bandana offering candy, and of course, Mom freaks the f*** out. And boom, she runs back to the park to see if she can find Luis. But, unfortunately, there's no trace of him or the strange woman anywhere. They are gone. And pretty quickly, Mom goes to the police. And this is a whole hurdle to get them involved because she doesn't speak English, like she and the boys just recently immigrated to California from Puerto Rico. But after they cross the language barrier, police get involved, and this huge 9-block search gets underway. Soldiers from a local army base help out, and they start looking, and the Coast Guard helps by searching the Bay Area nearby, and this story makes the news locally, and that gets it a little attention there. But still, there's no sign of little Luis. And of course, Mom is destroyed by all this, but there's not much else she can do. And this is during a time where there are no Amber Alerts, no surveillance cameras, no missing children computer database. All they have is a 10-year-old's description of what happened that day. And so every day, Mom goes to the police station to see if there are any updates, hoping that they'll have something. And every day, she gets the same answer. No news, no leads, no Luis. And years pass, and Mom stops coming every day, and she just comes once a week, and eventually that turns into her coming once a month. And as more time passes, she starts to only come to the police station once a year. And at this point, officers know her so well that she'll just walk into the station without saying a word, and they'll look at her and they'll just shake their head, and she'll know that that means they have no updates for her. But despite that, Mom never stops believing that her son is still alive. And she never gives up hope. Ever. So, then I guess you have to ask, what happened to Luis? Well, obviously he was kidnapped, and we don't know a ton of the details of this part. Like, we know he was taken from the park, we know he and the woman got on a plane, and that they flew from California to somewhere on the East Coast, and we don't exactly know where. And we know that then, somehow, Luis ends up getting adopted by a couple, and that couple raises him as their own. And Luis knows he was adopted, but he doesn't know he was originally stolen. But anyway, from there, he lives a fairly normal life. Like, he grows up, he later joins the Marines, he goes and fights in the Vietnam War, he comes back, and then he goes and fights in the Vietnam War a second time, and then eventually he comes back for good, and he becomes a firefighter, he gets married, he has kids of his own. Meanwhile, Mom, on the opposite side of the country, she still hasn't given up hope. Like, she still goes to the police station about once a year to see if there are any updates, and there aren't. Even so, she continues to keep baby Luis's photo in the house, and she keeps a newspaper clipping about his abduction in her wallet at all times. And so decades pass, 54 years after Luis first went missing, and it's 2005. And at this point, Mom is 92 years old, and sadly, she passes away, never having found her son. So any hope of Luis ever being located or reunited with his original family are just gone. Until more time passes, and it's now 2020, and that is when we meet this woman. Her name's Alita. Alita's 63. And one day, just for fun, she decides to take one of those Ancestry DNA tests through the mail. So she takes it and she gets the results back, and whoa, that's weird. She's a match with some man she doesn't recognize. Not only that, the results say that she shares 22% DNA with this guy. And so she's thinking, oh, this must be like a cousin or an uncle or something. And so she sends this mystery guy a little message, because you can like message each other through the site. And then she waits, and she waits, and she waits, and the mystery guy never replies. And so she's like, alright, whatever, and she moves on. And 4 years go by. And one night she's watching some documentary on TV, and this reminds her somehow of that random unknown man that she shares DNA with. And so she decides to give it another shot and dig a little deeper and figure out just who this guy is. And so she starts looking up his name online, and she comes across some pictures of him, and the guy is, of course, Luis. Now, Alita had heard all her life about an uncle she has who went missing when he was 6 years old. I mean, the family has always talked about him. And so she's looking at these pictures of adult Luis on the internet going, could this be him? That uncle? And she starts comparing them to childhood photos she has of her uncle, and she's like, yeah, I think that's him. And so eventually she goes to the police, and she's like, oh, you have to look into this. I think this guy was my uncle who was kidnapped, literally back in 1951. And police can't believe it, and they actually do agree to help, as the case was never solved. And so they open it back up, and then they get the FBI involved, and then the California Department of Justice joins in, and after a bit of investigating, the FBI goes and they track Luis down, and he lives somewhere on the East Coast. And so I guess the FBI goes to him, and they're like, we think you might be this kid who was kidnapped back in 1951. And Luis is like, I was kidnapped? See, because he still didn't even know. Like, he thought he had been legitimately adopted. So they convince him to take a DNA test just to be sure, and of course, it turns out that his DNA is a match with Alita and the remaining members of his family. And so now, after 73 years, 73 years, he finally flies from the East Coast back to Oakland, California to meet his biological family.
A man reunited with his family 70 years after being abducted after he was found through a voluntary DNA swab test.
Now, keep in mind, most of these family members he's either never met or he just doesn't remember. But one person he does remember. His brother, Roger, who he reunites with, and this is a picture of the two of them. That's Luis on the right and Roger on the left. So then, after all that, who was responsible for this kidnapping? Well, unfortunately, that's a tough one, because 70 years have gone by. We don't know who the woman in the green bandana was, and Luis was 6 years old, so he doesn't remember too many details of it. And his adopted parents aren't even alive anymore. So, honestly, I don't know if we'll ever know.
China just made fake diamonds that can destroy real ones. They're 40% harder. Scientists at Jilin University have created something that's going to shake the diamond industry to its core. These aren't just any fake diamonds. They're super diamonds that are way stronger than anything we've seen before. These new diamonds are so tough, they can crush and scratch natural diamonds like they're nothing. And while regular diamonds start to break down in extreme heat, these super diamonds can handle much hotter temperatures, almost twice as hot.
Yes.
How did they do it? They heated compressed graphite until it formed hexagonal diamonds, the same rare structure found in meteorite crash sites like the Canyon Diablo in Arizona. This isn't just about jewelry. These super hard diamonds could revolutionize drilling, manufacturing, and yes, even engagement rings. The diamond industry's monopoly might be coming to an end, and it's all thanks to this Chinese breakthrough. Think natural diamonds are forever, think again.
Old iPhones are making a comeback, as the era of yearly upgrades is over. Having the latest iPhone was once the ultimate status symbol, yet now people are holding onto phones for longer. Last year's Brat had people longing for the iPhone 5C. Jacquemus documented Paris Fashion Week on an iPhone 4. We've seen the rise of wired headphones as a fashion accessory among Gen Z. We're seeing a shift towards nostalgic tech. The coolest person you know probably has an old iPhone that's smashed, signaling that they live life on the edge. We've seen a huge shift towards digital cameras and Polaroids. People are realizing that old digital cameras take more interesting photos than new iPhones. The fact that luxury brands are moving towards crappy quality, lo-fi content points to a wider shift towards effortless content. Judith Lola made a video about the myth of effortlessness. You could argue that swapping your new iPhone for a smashed iPhone 4 is the new quiet luxury. The underlying message of quiet luxury is I'm so rich I don't need to wear logos. Right? Using an iPhone 4 in 2025 is the same in that you're saying I'm so cool I don't even have to use the newest iPhone. I saw this video from one of my favorite creators and it got me thinking. Has Apple stopped innovating? As a freelance content creator and social strategist for brands and talent, I've noticed the rise of dumb phones and the shift towards lo-fi content. With the rise of AI, new technology is scary for many. If I didn't need pristine quality and equipment for my client shoots, I'm not sure I'd upgrade every year. Have you had enough of yearly upgrades and are you de-influenced? Follow along for more creative insight. And my life as the coldest creative.
Microsoft has unveiled Majorana 1, the world's first quantum chip powered by topological core technology. What's the big deal? It's built with a topo conductor, an entirely new state of matter that isn't a solid, liquid, or gas, but topological. This breakthrough lets them create Majorana particles which protect and stabilize data at the quantum level. Picture it this way. In the past, tiny disturbances could knock qubits out of sync, ruining calculations. Now, thanks to Majorana 1, there can be more stable and scalable qubits that can fit on a single chip, leading toward the magic goal of 1 million qubits. This opens the door to solving challenges no classical computer can handle, from eliminating microplastics in our oceans to engineering self-healing materials for bridges, buildings, and healthcare devices. This new quantum power, teamed with AI, could mean designing the perfect product on the first try every time, cutting guesswork and unlocking a world of innovation. Microsoft's bold approach, built on nearly 2 decades of topological research, proves that the future of quantum isn't decades away. It's just around the corner. This redefines what is possible with a new state of matter, a new type of chip, and a clear path to real-world impact.
So the reason why all this flooding is going on in Detroit is because the Mississippi River is going to increase in size. All the ocean water is going to go up the Mississippi River into the Great Lakes and basically expand the Great Lakes all throughout that area. So that whole area is going to be covered in water according to the Navy flood map. So there's actually water underneath Detroit. You know, there's actually a river that runs right through Detroit called the Detroit River. But underneath Detroit, there's like water in that whole area because that whole area is going to be covered by like 2030. So that's the reason why it's getting cold up there too, because the North Pole is moving. So not only is it going to, you know, flood the whole area, it's going to actually freeze as well. I don't know how many times I got to keep telling y'all to observe the map. They're telling you exactly what's going to happen, and you have a choice to prevent, you know, your future.
This picture right here is the perfect reason why I don't go to concerts and probably never will. This is actually a Drake concert, and if you notice, every single person in this photo from the audience is not there for Drake, it's not there for the music, but they're there to get a lick out of Drake, to get some financial help. It makes you wonder, if these people are struggling, what are they doing in expensive seats like this? These seats probably cost like $300, $500, $1,200, sometimes even $3,000. And you have people asking for a Birkin bag for his girlfriend, someone over here asking for Drake to help pay their mom's mortgage, over here asking for a car. This one is asking Drake to help her boyfriend pay for an engagement ring.
What the hell? What's going on?
I don't know what she's doing there. I don't know where her boyfriend is, but okay. This one's asking Drake to help take their dog to the vet because they can't pay for it. Now, I'm not laughing at these people struggling.
Okay, it's
I'm
not struggling,
actually
but then it's fine.
surprised that people who are struggling are at a concert for Drake. I know some people want to take a break and they want to chill and all that. That's great. But what's the point? You're making this man richer. He probably doesn't care about your problems in life. And you're still struggling. I don't know. Think about it. Not my thing.
Here's why you have never seen a frozen flood before, and why we saw it happen this week in Detroit. Eerie videos posted online show entire neighborhoods in southwest Detroit completely frozen over. Cars were trapped under thick layers of ice, with some frozen solid inside and out. And in some homes, basements were buried under 5 feet of frozen floodwater. So how the hell did this happen? Because normally floods don't freeze, because for it to rain, air temperatures need to be above freezing. Otherwise, it would just be snow. And if it's warm enough to flood, then it's usually too warm for the water to freeze immediately. And luckily, Detroit didn't break any laws of nature, because these floods happened without a single drop of rain. At 2 a.m. on Monday, a 54-inch water main from the 1930s ruptured, sending torrents of water onto the streets. And because the temperatures were around minus 17 degrees Celsius, the water rapidly froze, leaving us with some of the strangest scenes we've seen in a while.
A long time ago, I used to live in Las Vegas, and I had a neighbor who was some drunk former military guy, and one day we were talking about just nothing, and he had told me that he used to work at Area 51, and so I was like, oh yeah, you know, have you seen the aliens? What do they look like? Blah blah blah, yada yada. And he would never ever tell me nothing. You couldn't pry anything out of him. But one night we had a power outage, and like the whole neighborhood was black. You couldn't see anything. So the night sky was like really dark. You could see like a lot of the stars because there was no outside light to drown out the stars. And he was real stinking drunk. I remember this guy used to drink like a half gallon of whiskey every 3 days. So we're just talking and bullshitting, and out of nowhere he goes, hey, you see Orion's belt? And I was like, no, I don't know what the hell it looks like. And he goes, yeah, up there. He goes, you see Orion's belt? He goes, you see how you see two stars that are straight, very, very parallel to each other, and then there's a little star that's slightly adjacent and off to the, left. And I said, yeah, I see it, whatever. And he goes, the bad aliens live on that adjacent star. And I looked at him and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And he goes, yeah, no, he goes, I'm serious. He goes, the two stars, that's where the good aliens live. The bad aliens live on that other star. And he said the good aliens look like the traditional grays that we see in magazines, on the internet, with the big head, the big eyes, they're really small and gray. He said the bad aliens are brown colored, very tall, and they smell.
Really?
I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, so I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I'm like, because I didn't really believe in UFOs then. But he goes, I said, if there's really aliens, I said, how do their UFOs, like, how are they able to travel from that star all the way over here? Because, we're dealing with, rocket engines and stuff like that. And he said that the UFOs, they basically run on electricity that's created out of nothing. I think he said space. He goes, they have like a, it was really, he said it in a confusing way, but he said that the UFOs run on electricity that's gathered up in space, and that instead of how a rocket is driven by thrust, by a combustion engine, he says the reason how the UFOs are able to go so fast is that he said that there's an engine on a UFO that opens up a void in space. And it's almost like he said the UFO is not that it's being thrust, but it's falling into itself. I don't know. I'm not sure if I believed him, but he said it pretty matter-of-factly. And he was, super drunk, because this guy, you could not ever have told him anything of a kind. You could never get anything out of him. But then he just goes off and says that. So, who knows? It could be real. I mean, UFOs. I kind of do believe in UFOs because I kind of seen one. I'm not sure if it was real, but it was in the Mojave Desert, and there was a plane going overhead, but it was going way, way too fast to be a plane. It's almost like when you see a jet, and it's going over across the sky. It's probably doing 500 miles an hour, maybe 450. Well, this thing was going like 40 times faster than what a jet would be going up that high in the sky. So I don't know what the hell it was, and who knows? Is it true? Hell if I know. But if any government officials see this, and if this is true, and I let out government secrets, please don't kill me.
You'll be killed,
I don't want to die. I don't know. Maybe I should just keep my mouth shut.
Let's talk about the most wealthiest family in the world, and that is the Rothschild family. And I mean, these people are literally worth trillions. Now let's talk about it. Now, the Rothschild family is a wealthy, noble German banking family, and their legacy goes back to like over 200 plus years. And they're extremely low-key people, but if you look up their net worth, it's not gonna say how much they're really worth, because like I said, these people are worth trillions. And allegedly, they run the world, and they're the ones who paved the world to be how it is today. Now, the family history dates back to the 16th century, back in Frankfurt, Germany. And they got their name from their family house, which was the Rothschild House, which was built in 1567. And they got their wealth primarily from international banking, and they was providing loans to European governments during wars. So they profited significantly from the chaos and need of financing, allowing them to create banking houses throughout like major European cities, like London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, all over Europe. And their success was literally like built from manipulation and just like getting locked in with all these like extremely noble people in the government and all that. In December of 2023, Forbes ranked the Rothschild family of the world's wealthiest family in the world, with a value of $20 trillion. So for over 300 years, they have quietly affected economic and political events. And this family's wealth and their extremely like reservedness has like spread lots of conspiracies over the years. That they control the weather and that they're puppet masters and all that good stuff. But allegedly the family's wealth has declined over the 20th century and was divided amongst like many descendants because it's quite a bit of them. And today their interest like is, you know, diverse. Like they got people that's doing like real estate, mining, stuff with like energy and different agriculture stuff. So it's not like originally like how they started off with banking. They're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But like I said, the Rothschild family are very private, low-key people, and the amount of wealth doesn't compare to what they really have. So stay tuned for part 2 while I talk about these elaborate parties that they used to have because it was wild. So let me know what y'all think about this family in the comments.
So this artist creates inconvenient versions of everyday objects, and some of them are pretty good. Look at this fork. Next we have this cup.
Bizarre.
Also very inconvenient. Unless you held it on its side, maybe. We have a 1-inch ruler. Yep, pretty inconvenient. A bowl with a hole in it.
It would be nice to eat cereal with it.
Oh wait, they're getting better. A broom. Not just a broom, a push broom with a vertical handle. A spoon that you can't use the tip of. That's
very
inconvenient.
convenient.
It would be easy to fill it up with liquid and then walk around with it. A chair with a raised seat. Might be good for your back, who knows. Salt shakers that are kind of like, what do they call those things? That you flip it up like the timing thing with sand. Set of coffee mugs that are conjoined. A fork with chain link. A pot with 2 handles on the same side. A wine glass. This could be used for weddings, I think.
World conspiracy theories. We are now on part 4, tier 8. Starting off with Pharaoh Akhenaten. So this was an Egyptian pharaoh that looked like an alien. There's different conspiracy theories about him, like he was an alien, or that he was like Moses from the Old Testament, even though Moses would have lived about 1400 years before he lived. Anyways, the big thing that we know about him is that he destroyed literally all Egyptian religion, and he forced everybody to worship one deity known as Aten. He founded Atenism, which was this religion where he worshipped a god depicted as a disk of the sun, which kind of looks like a UFO, but I think it's supposed to be the sun. And he also moved the entire capital of Egypt and everyone in it to a random part in the desert where he established this cult center called Akhenaten. Now, this cult center was different from other Egyptian worship places as it didn't have a roof at all, and they did that because they wanted the sunlight to come in and they wanted the sun rays to fall on them. Anyways, Akhenaten was very deformed looking, and that's why there's a lot of conspiracy theories about it being like an alien and stuff. Building 7, I'm not sure if I can talk about this on here, but I'm not spreading misinformation. This is just me educating you guys about what people believe. So Building 7 is referring to a conspiracy theory about World Trade Center Building 7 collapsing on 9/11. This was a 47-story tall skyscraper that was not hit by a plane in the September 11 attacks, but was said to collapse later that day because of fires that were caused from debris from the falling building. So there's a lot of people that believe that this was not necessarily done from the fires, but rather was done by some other means. And those who believe this theory point to different things like how architectures disagree with how they fell and whether it was even possible for it to collapse the way it did. And also the CIA had offices on the 25th floor, and also the BBC News reported that Building 7 had collapsed before it actually did. But why would BBC have inside information about that? They wouldn't if it was something like people think it is. But anyways, this is the most sussy thing in my opinion about 9/11. Quantum realm. So this is beyond my ability to really explain, but I'll try to tell you guys. In quantum physics, in the subatomic level, so like really small things, quantum particles react differently than regular sized things. If you want to know what this means, basically look up the double slit experiment, which to summarize was just the thing where people would observe a particle on the quantum level and it would react differently when it's being observed than when it's not being observed, which is really strange. Anyways, the conspiracy theory quantum realm refers to the idea that basically on the quantum level there are maybe like entities with some strange powers that affect these particles. Kind of like if Ant-Man was like shrunk down and was like messing with particles and we saw them react differently when we were observing them when than if we weren't. Keep in mind, all quantum mechanics is just a theory. So, Aleph. This is another one that I really should not explain, but this is basically the way mathematicians explain the size of infinity. For example, between like normal numbers like 1 and 2, there is an infinite amount of numbers in like the decimal place. So you can do 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so it's like 1 infinity. And so then you can also go to 2.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and just keep going. And so then there's a larger 2 infinity. So basically they're saying that there's larger numbers of infinity than others. I should not have explained this, but
it makes sense.
Moving on to the 9th tier, we have Phoenician colonization. So this one really surprised me and made me kind of go down a rabbit hole. But this was a theory about the Phoenicians, who were this group of people that lived in the eastern Mediterranean area that were really good sailors. And people theorized that because they were such good sailors, they actually were the first people to reach the Americas before Columbus. And how much earlier, you may ask? Basically before the birth of Christ is when they think.
Really?
They think it was between 1000 to 1 BC. Now, the reason why some people think that the Phoenicians got to the Americas way before anybody else is because of different artifacts and inscriptions that we found around the Americas, such as the Dighton Rock, which is this petroglyph that was found in Massachusetts. But I went down an absolute rabbit hole about the Dighton Rock, and there's nothing to say. There's no conclusive evidence for anything about the Dighton Rock. It's actually really frustrating because it's like, they're like, yeah, the writing's really old. Well, some people think it's Latin, but other people think the Native Americans drew it. But then also, other people think that it's Portuguese, and so I don't know why they wouldn't have a conclusive theory on this. I mean, why wouldn't they have that? Anyways, I think it's pretty far-fetched to think it was Phoenician writing, but that would be really, really cool. And there's also other inscribed Phoenician writing allegedly found in Brazil, but I don't really think they found that. Moving on to the Voynich manuscript. So this was a book likely created in the 1400s in Central Europe that contained a variety of strange pictures and language that nobody could decipher or knew what language it was from. So this manuscript was divided into 6 sections. One was plants. It had 113 unidentified plant species. The other was an astronomical section. It had charts of the stars and of the planets and of zodiac signs. Another is a biological section that had pictures of women and then also strange tubes attached to women. And there's other kind of weird sections about like medicine and other things. But what's funny about the book is that it's constantly debated about on whether the language is real or whether it's a lost language or if there's like a cipher to decode it or even what the purpose of this manuscript was. But what a lot of people think is that it's just some silly writing that a guy did back in medieval times and that he just wanted to make a silly book. So it's the first meme, I guess. Global cooling. So this was a big scare around the 1970s, but also went into the 80s and the 90s, where people were really worried about a mass global cooling that might cause another ice age. The reason people were so worried about this is because of different reasons, like aerosol. They were worried aerosol was going to cause this. They were worried that our rocket launches to space was going to cause global cooling, or also nuclear winter. They were worried about the Cold War going on, and if there was a nuclear winter, they thought it would be pretty bad. But what's really crazy is we just now realized how much we've been underestimating the nuclear winter. I actually heard this saying recently that if we did have like a true nuclear war on Earth, we likely would have major ice sheets covering basically all major bodies of water from Iowa all the way to Russia for 7 to 10 years. That would be terrible. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you want to hear more World Conspiracy Iceberg, I will continue the series with part 5 next. But thank you, and I will see you in the next one. And if you want to follow me on YouTube, I will also be doing longer videos there. Bye.
This is the deepest gold mine in the world. It's called the Anglo Ashanti Gold Mine. It is in South Africa and is 5,000 meters deep. Because it's so deep, the temperature inside is very high. Every year, about 8,000 kilograms of gold is taken out from here. This mine opened in 1986, and workers here use special suits and oxygen cylinders to stay safe while working.
Let me go back a little bit to your background, because it's beyond impressive. You were the chief engineer, for example. You were an early believer in Tesla. You became the CEO, and then the chief engineer, which was phenomenal. SpaceX, same thing, which is unbelievable. I mean, you were the first private company to send astronauts successfully into space. First private company to send astronauts into orbit.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep.
He's going to go into orbit soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's going to go to Mars. He's
Starlink.
At some point. Yeah.
Is in over.
But they always ask me, like, do you want to die on Mars? And I say, well, yes, but not on impact.
Starlink is in 100 countries. This is going to be hard. I feel like I'm interviewing two brothers here.
You go ahead.
Star Shield, which could be used for national defense.
Yeah, it is already being used for national defense.
Then you have what is it called? Optimus, a part of Tesla.
This guy's a genius.
A robotic arm. Then you have an AI arm. And then you have something that really fascinated me.
Encyclopedia really helps,
and
right?
it's called Neuralink.
Yes.
You might help the blind to see,
yes,
and people with spinal cord injuries, that they can recover, where in the past, how close is that becoming a success?
Neuralink, we've implanted Neuralink in 3 patients so far who are quadriplegics, and it allows them to directly control their phone and computer just using their mind, just by thinking. It's like, so we call this product telepathy. So you control your computer and phone just by thinking, and it's possible to actually control the computer and phone faster than someone who has working hands. Then the next step would be to add a second Neuralink implant past the point where the neurons damaged, so that somebody can walk again, and so they can have full body functionality restored. And
you like Bobby, right?
After seeing what I seen when Gervonta Davis was talking about the beef between him and Floyd Mayweather and how he wanted him to lose against Jose Pedraza, when I watched the end, when they was announcing Tank as the winner, you can see Floyd Mayweather in the back just looking salty, wiping his nose. He not even really clapping. He looking like, damn, this nigga beat the odds. But y'all, this shit is crazy. Look at this photo. Look how Floyd is looking at Gervonta like, damn, I wanted you to lose for real. The whole fight hit different. Y'all need to go watch it over. This shit crazy, fool. So if people don't know, allegedly the beef stemmed from Floyd Mayweather's daughter Snapchatting Gervonta on Snapchat. I'm guessing people when Floyd Cam got wind of that, and they told Floyd like, hey, I think Gervonta knocking your daughter boots. Floyd said, Gervonta knocking my daughter boots? Nah. Then they showed on the proof. They like, look, the proof is in the pudding, and he's all up in it. She Snapchatting him. Floyd couldn't believe his eyes. He said, this nigga, man, after I bet him on, that's how he gonna do me? He gonna do my daughter? So next thing Gervonta know, Floyd didn't even talk about it. He didn't even bring up the situation that his daughter was getting but doinked. He just told him, your next match is against a world title holder named Jose Pedraza. And Gervonta goes, oh, Slim, I don't think I'm ready for that. And Floyd said, well, you better get ready, because if you don't take this fight, I'ma hang you on the shelf. You gonna be washed up. So in Gervonta's mind, all the odds were stacked against him on this fight, because he had onlookers that was supposed to be in his camp wishing him to lose. Just over a mishap, because he said he didn't knock Floyd Mayweather's daughter boots off. He said she sure wanted them to get that thing dusted though. But Floyd wasn't trying to hear none of that. So as Gervonta entered the ring and the bell rung, Floyd looking on the sidelines like, yeah, we got him. Jose Pedraza was doing the deed for Floyd at first. A couple rounds he was getting in Gervonta's shit. He was tagging him up. Every punch Jose Pedraza landed, Floyd Mayweather's eyes just lit up like, he gonna do it. And all in all, Gervonta overcame the odds because he knocked that man sham out. The hardest thing for Floyd in this situation, being though he was his promoter, was clapping a little bit for him, because he didn't clap a lot. But what did clap was his daughter cheeks.
Jay-Z is the most powerful human being in the country, maybe in the world. Yeah. Because Jay-Z literally had the halftime show with Kendrick Lamar, broke records. 133.5 million people watched the halftime show, the most watched ever, more than Michael Jackson. And now we have his lawsuit. Remember, there was a lawsuit against Jay-Z by Tony Busby, the lawyer, who said that Jay-Z was in the room with Diddy when he assaulted allegedly a 13-year-old girl in the year 2000. Guess what? The lawsuit has been officially dropped, completely cleaning him. And Jay-Z spoke in a statement, the fictional tale they created was laughable. I would not wish this experience on anyone. The trauma that my wife Beyonce and my children and I have endured cannot be dismissed. This 1-800 lawyer gets to file a suit hiding behind a Jane Doe. The system has failed. Jay-Z can maybe take a bullet right now, and the bullet would graze him. It wouldn't even touch him.
Shut up.
I'm telling you right now, Jay-Z is like untouchable. So Jay-Z actually has now filed against Tony Busby. He's suing him over false allegations, and he's claiming $20 million in losses.
Good. I'm glad this is happening, because at the end of the day, bro, when you allow people to just manipulate the system the way people like Tony Busby have, where they're just capitalizing on people's situations and like just trying to capitalize on misfortune, and if they're not held accountable, then it continues.
As the president said, like, there's a lot of rich people out there. They should be caring more about the country, because the reason they should be caring more about the country is if America falls, what do you think is going to happen to your business? Do you think you're going to be okay if the ship of America sinks? Of course not. What I'm doing here, what the president's doing, is it's just long-term thinking. The ship of America must be strong. The ship of America cannot sink. If it sinks, we all sink with it. It's essential that America be healthy, that America's economy be strong. America is the central pillar holding up Western civilization. That pillar must be strong. If that pillar falls, the whole roof comes crashing down.
Including his
There's
ships.
no place to hide.
Including his ships.
There's no place to run.
Nothing. There's nothing left.
The reason that you don't know anything about money is because John D. Rockefeller created the education system. And if you'll recall, he said, I want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. So when he created the education system, he made it a one-to-one model. School is the same as a work day at the factory. That's why you go to your 8-hour shift, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. Only learning things that make you a better employee. Just like basic math, basic reading and writing, his story, how to stay in line, and how to follow orders. Everything that a good employee
his story,
should know.
like history,
Totally neglected
right?
things like teamwork, they call that cheating in school, critical thinking, outside the box problem solving, money management, investing, leadership, sales, communication, tax strategy, and the laws that govern you. And anything else that would be useful in the real world. So what we did is we created our own education system, where we learn the things that Rockefeller teaches his kids, like estate planning, tax strategy, trust, insurance, annuities, financial literacy, and privatized banking. So if you want to join our community and learn the strategies that we use, comment the word banker, and I'll invite you in.
There are no bats in French Polynesia, no frogs, and only a handful of lizards.
Look at that place in the middle of nowhere.
The most successful travelers were the long-haul flyers, sooty tags.
4 years?
Incredibly, they can stay in the air for 4 years without landing.
And how do they eat?
4 years without landing?
4 years? Oh, that's crazy. This is mind blowing. How do they eat then? This is crazy. Okay, so we've come to the end of the video. Very interesting video, very mind blowing, and I liked it. I enjoyed myself. I hope you did too as well. And we've come to the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post, you will be the first to get it. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.